Good morning, comic book fans. Welcome back to Comics in 5 Minutes. I'm your ever-loving host, Shorty. And before we carry on, a couple of little things. Number one, I'm coming down with a cold. I managed to go most of a year and a half without one because, well, I've not been hanging out with people and it's been great. I get them, I tend to sneeze and sniffle quite a lot, so apologies if this gets rid of a little bit. Second thing, I follow a few of the YouTube creators, and one of them recently was celebrating going like pretty much overnight from 2,000 to 20,000 subscribers, and was quite rightly hugely happy about the entire thing. I came into work this morning and saw I got 3 more subscribers, so I'm not quite there yet. But if anyone wants to make me smile when I come into work in the morning, like this one, subscribe, tell your friends about it, and who knows, maybe one day I'll be doing the same kind of thing. But all that out of the way now, let's talk about comic books. Today we're doing Human Remains, the one from Vault Comics, and if you've involved for a while now, you know I like Vault Comics. Even if it's not something I'm down for particularly, in terms of like my pull list, generally enjoy what they're doing. They came onto the scene roughly I get my awareness at least, roughly the same time as Scout Comics, and I think of the two of them, Vault have gone in a direction that I'm more interested in. They tend to embrace the horror a lot more and a lot more effectively. This one, weirdly, is not part of the Nightfall kind of thing. At least I can't see any reference to it on here. But it is out and out horror. It's monster horror rather than any kind of subtle, creepy, ghosty kind of stuff. I mean, Autumnal, which is one I've rated before, is definitely one of my best of the year. And the first trade paperback is out available today. That is Vault Comics' Nightfall, I think it is. And it's brilliant. It's also very different to this, although they are both clearly horror. For one, artwork-wise, this one is that little bit more scratchy, less disciplined. Now, I don't mind that at all. In fact, I quite like it. It's the same artist who did I Walk with Monsters, which I've also raved about. And after reading issue 1, I put it onto my pull list because I really enjoyed it. Not going to, bury the lead on this one. After reading this one, I put it on my pull list too. And it's not just down to the artwork, although it's fantastic. The one example I'm going to pick for displaying quite nicely is this death scene here. Now, I'll get into why the death happens and we'll come to talking about the story and the writing. But it's quite nice because it doing something which I usually don't talk about much when I talk about comic books, which is motion and dynamism. This is actually just an actual still frame, which is still an interesting thing to do. And it actually adds a lot to the comic books. It is taking it as a snapshot. It's half a second after a grisly monster-based death. But this early on in the comic book, they don't show you the grisly monster-based death. They show you the after effect. Even if the after effect is a matter of fractions of a second, and you see organs still in air because they haven't landed yet. There is like a foot with a sock still on it in the bottom of the shot there. It's all gruesome and horrible, but they don't show you everything. They don't have to yet. When you're dealing with monster-themed comic books or stories, movies in general, I think the worst thing you can do is be like, hey, look, here's a monster. Because then the rest of the comic book is just more of what the monster gets up to, and you've lost that buzz of like, well, what actually is it? Where does it come from? How does it attack? What's its motivations? All that kind of stuff is out the window because you've already gone, look, hey, monster. So the fact that I want to say Milligan here, Pete Milligan, has taken his time and spends most of the comic book just kind of flitting around the idea of it, rather than showing you out what it is. I think that's a much better way of doing it. It gives him a chance to build up characterization, which I think is a very strong thing the comic book does very well, and even the art again here. I'm going to show you the cover for this one, because that is the two kind of main characters of this issue, at least, clearly in love at a wedding. When you see them earlier, sorry, cold again, I do apologize. There's a point where they have just made love in a field, and they're clearly still in the throes of an early kind of portion of a relationship. And the idea gets dropped that maybe there could be something more. Maybe they could get married, fully commit to each other. Sorry, again, this is really embarrassing, but I really have a cold. And the gentleman in question looks nervous. And then you realize it's not because he's scared of any kind of commitment. It's because he is clearly punching above his weight, and he's kind of convinced himself that he doesn't deserve the happiness that's in front of him, that's offered to him. And his nervousness isn't about him. It's about like what happens when this amazing person I'm with realizes that she can do way better than me. And all this comes across really effectively in facial expression and body language and writing as well, because it is written brilliantly. And the other thing that's done very well about it, I mean, frustratingly, it took me a whole 8 pages to realize this is not a comic book about giant monsters. Should be. Giant monster right there on the cover. Multiple giant monster attacks. How to deal with giant monsters seems to be a theme of it. But that is very much not what it's about. 8 pages in, you get the sense that there is more to it because these monsters attack based on emotion. So I think a human world where nobody can emote physically or emotionally, nobody can show signs of emotion. But then there's people who don't believe it, people who think, no, this is all just a conspiracy. I'm going to carry on doing what I want to do. And there's various people who think it's been faked by Elon Musk comes up, or the EU. Thank you, Peter Milligan, for that one. Put a smile on my face. And it's not subtle. I think it starts subtle, and there's bits where I think if you're looking for it, you know what's coming up, you'll be able to see it. Maybe somebody reading it a little bit more critically than I was first time round would be able to look at that and go, oh, I can see where this is going. For me, literally, when he laid out on page 8, I was like, oh, I see what you're doing. And then obviously these people are wrong. And they get devoured by giant monsters ripping through reality and tearing them apart. Strange how that had happened. Almost as if that's actually the case, that something is going wrong and people are trying to save you, not trying to mess with your rights to life, liberty, and happiness. Because of that, it's another one of the situations where I love writers who work within genre fiction to tell a real life story. Love it, love it, love it. And it's done very effectively. I will say, maybe for other people it might not land, because I think he goes a little bit into down and out proselytizing. But since I am the audience for this kind of thing, I feel like he's talking to me directly, and I have an awful lot of fun with it. If you are a little bit skeptical, maybe vaccine skeptic or anything like that, maybe you might feel attacked by it. I don't know. But I think it's a conversation worth having, and it's handled effectively. Instead of talking about tiny little viruses, it's giant intergalactic monsters, and that's way more fun to read about. That's it for me today. I'm going to review something from Scout tomorrow. I've got 2 of them. I'm going to put a little thing up on my social, so Instagram, Ka-Pow Comics UK, same for Twitter, or just find us on Facebook. And you never know, you might actually get to pick which one I'm going to review, because they're both in the same company, and I don't really know which one I'm going to want to review more. So keep an eye out for that one. Until then, look after each other, everyone. Stay safe. Bye.